Hey everyone, welcome to our quarterly CPC report for Amazon. Um, we are going to be talking to you today about what's new in Q1, key takeaways based on our data, Q1 results and insights. And then as always, I'm really glad I have Mindy Fashaw here today because she can help me with questions, Q&A. Last time I was by myself and I got a lot of good and hard questions. So feel free to ask those questions all throughout, and we'll do our best to answer them at the end. And then I guess I could introduce ourselves. So myself, Melissa Burdick, president and co-founder of Patio. I'm joined with Mindy Fashaw, COO of Patio. Together, we have 20 years of Amazon experience. And here we are today in Patio. Crazy times. E-commerce has accelerated so much during this past year, and we're excited to share results with you. In case you don't know us, so Patio is an enterprise platform for brand sellers and agencies. We help them effectively manage their advertising spend across Amazon, Walmart, Instacart, eBay, Microsoft, Criteo, Target. Should I go on? So retail media is exploding. And if they have a self-serve API, you can find them in Patio. Our value prop is really about unifying retail media. All right, on with the news. So Q1, let's talk about, on the next slide, Amazon digital ad share passes 10%. So Amazon's advertising business grew 52.5% last year, pushing their share of US digital ad spend past 10% for the first time. eMarketer expects Amazon's US ad business to grow another 30%, surpassing 20 billion for the first time. So pretty huge numbers. Where is it coming from? So as you can see, Google is really hard hit here. The interesting thing here, for the first time, I think Walmart is being reported on. So you can kind of see when people ask us, what should my budget be on Amazon versus Walmart? A lot of times I point to, Amazon's ecosystem is just so much bigger right now, but they are catching up. So you can kind of see the growth through the years. But specifically about Amazon, they're predicting it was 13.3% of total spending in 2019, all the way up to almost 23% in 2023. So pretty good growth there. All right, so let's move on to what's new in ads. So sponsored ads and stores launch in Singapore, so more international expansion. Another interesting thing, we all know the importance of reviews, and kind of interestingly, Amazon eliminated the early reviewer program, which is really the way that sellers were able to get reviews. And I think it was something like 5 reviews. Is that right, Mindy? Can't remember.
I can't remember either.
It wasn't like a ton. The other thing that they also eliminated was the ability for brands to respond to their reviews. So kind of a lot of things going on there. Our, prediction is that what we've heard, I guess, about the early reviewer program was there just was a lack of adoption. And so we suspect that there will be more ways for people to get reviews, but, we'll see how that goes. And then another interesting kind of expansion is around Amazon Audiences launches for sponsored display. So this is kind of a big thing because, sponsored display is a CPC product. It's kind of similar to DSP. Both can appear on and off site, but DSP is much better at appearing off site, and sponsored display is better at on site. And DSP targeting capabilities are still more robust. So let me give you an example. So for sponsored display, you could do targeting like an audience of men's shoes. For DSP, you could target more specifically, very specifically, like all men with income over $50,000 in this zip code who have viewed Nike shoes 3 times in the last 90 days but haven't purchased. And this is truly the power of Amazon audience advertising, because it can be so specific and get to your audience. And then lastly, Amazon Attribution launches new product level reporting. So Amazon Attribution is the ability to measure Amazon sales for advertising that is non-Amazon marketing. And that's kind of another expansion of their product. Is there anything you want to add, Mindy, to any of these?
No, I mean, I think you kind of hit on the key points with, sponsored display versus DSP, which is, it's another tool in the toolkit. It is a CPC model and not a CPM model. But to your point, it's really better for on-site and specific product targeting, things like that, versus DSP, which just has that wider reach, from an audience perspective.
Great. All right, next slide. So Amazon DSP updates, new placements, so Twitch in-stream videos, more placements across the site, so more impression availability, responsive creatives. I think this is really interesting. So dynamically pulling in product detail page content for creatives, improved out of stock and lost buy box functionality. That's pretty big as well. And then video creative builder. So we know video performs really well in advertising. Amazon has this ability to kind of create for you videos, which just shows, power video. They want to help brands and sellers create more of it in a more programmatic and easy way. And it just, consistent improvement on their site. Meanwhile, other retail platforms are still kind of working through algorithms and things like that. So as we know, Amazon's pretty far ahead in their optimization of their advertising platform.
Yeah, I will add to that. I mean, the one thing that we're seeing as they're launching, more and more self-service DSP functionality is that internally they're focused more on sort of those upper funnel, placements and packages. So it's huge that they've finally launched self-service access to gateway placements, so homepage placements.
Awesome.
Cool. So let's dive into the report.
Okay. And after I do this, Mindy, I want to have a little quiz to the audience, and I'm going to ask you a question. So don't move on to the next slide until I ask the quiz, because the answer is going to be on the next page.
Okay.
All right. So key takeaways. We're not surprised. Ad spend was significantly up year over year, 59%. Interestingly, CPCs and CPAs were little changed. The nice thing, finally, consumer searches are returning to seasonal, not pandemic shopping. So, this time last year, March, was when, really things went down and toilet paper was all the rage and search behavior and hand sanitizer. But we're finally seeing life return with more normal purchase behavior. And more categories are seeing strong growth bolstered by stimulus checks. Okay, don't go to the next page. Quiz to the audience so we can wake everyone up. You can answer in the chat, what was the #1 search term for March on Amazon? Go. Ketchup, Pop It, masks. Chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a big one. That is a TikTok thing that I've been seeing. Feta is a good one. Yep, I see everyone's TikTok fans on our listeners. Toilet paper. Still you're buying toilet paper and Lysol wipes? All right. I want to know, there's a person in here, Ali Gurley. I don't know who you are, but you are with it. So Easter baskets. All right, Mindy, go to the next page. Easter basket stuffers. So I'm going to give it to Ali there because she said Easter basket. It is Easter basket stuffers. Thank goodness, holiday, all the toilet paper and hand sanitizer and all the, COVID-based search behavior has all but disappeared in this quarter. It's replaced with seasonal stuff, like people are actually shopping for Valentine's Day and Easter baskets. The other interesting thing, so a lot of people did say Pop It. I was not aware of this trend. I must be out of it, but it must be a TikTok thing. But that was a big trend as well. Laptops, so people are still working from home and buying Bluetooth headphones and things like that. So you can still see that behavior. But for the first time in March, face mask has disappeared as restrictions are loosening in some states. are not requiring face masks. We're very masked up here in Seattle, but it's kind of nice to see this search behavior, to be honest with you. And Mindy, a question for you. What was the first non-COVID related thing that you bought this quarter?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny you asked because I couldn't think of it. But I just realized I just bought it a few days ago, and it was because I've been really, really good at not buying clothes, shoes, handbags, things like that during COVID. Oops, sorry. So I finally just told my husband, like, I need to buy something. I have to spend some money. So I bought myself a pair of Arizona big buckle Birkenstocks in dove gray. Check them out. They're really cute. So they haven't arrived yet, but I'm excited to wear them.
You did not buy them on Amazon because Amazon does not sell Birkenstock. Is that right?
That is correct. I bought them from Birkenstock.
They're a pullout brand. They said, you are not representing my brand, and I'm nixing you.
Yep. All right. On to the next.
So this Pop-It, a lot of people, I don't know if people have this product. Maybe I need to buy this, but this is one of the, people are still stressed. They're working from home. I feel like that woman up there on the top right hand side is me half the time when my kids are still working from home or doing school from home. Yes, that's the case here. But yeah, so I got to go check out this product, but this is a pretty popular product. It must be, I'm guessing it's a TikTok thing too. So.
All right, so let's dive into some of the trends that we're seeing. So overall spend was down quarter over quarter, which is really no surprise coming out of Q4. However, while click-through rate, was up for both sponsored product and sponsored brand quarter over quarter, both did see year-over-year declines. The year-over-year decline was really more pronounced with sponsored brand. However, looking at the quarterly trend, Q1 of 2020 was really an outlier there. CPCs were down quarter over quarter. However, they were up 9% year over year for sponsored product and then remained essentially flat for sponsored brand. Conversion rate is the real winner on this chart. Given that roughly a 5% increase quarter over quarter for both sponsored product and sponsored brand, as well as an 11% year over year improvement for sponsored product. And then ROAS saw consistent declines across both ad types quarter over quarter, and we'll talk about that a bit later. And sponsored brand declined actually almost at 2 times the rate of sponsored product year over year. So looking a bit at spend, again, no surprise that it declined quarter over quarter. However, it did increase significantly year over year for sponsored brand ads at 89% growth year over year. While sponsored products increased at about half of that, 41% year over year. So combined, this does represent that 59% year over year growth in ad spend that Melissa mentioned at the top across the 2 different ad types. PackView has really seen a lot of success with sponsored brand video ads, making it one of the more attractive investments, especially, a bit more attractive than those static sponsored brand ads. So with the launch of sponsored brand video came some additional sponsored brand placements, which is likely leading to that year over year increase, disproportionate growth in ad spend, while CPCs remained flat. And then while top searches did return to somewhat normal with the seasonal searches making the list, we do continue to see some strong signs that consumers are still working from home, with desk making the list all 3 months, January through March of 2021. While they were not in the top search results for the same period last year, people didn't know that they were going to be stuck at home for as long as we have been. So with that, we're continuing to see strength in the home categories that we really saw rise in Q2 of last year as people started to kind of settle in and realize that they might be at home for a while. And then ad spend in lawn and garden reached over 75% growth year over year by March. People are likely preparing for more time at home, but also, looking to get outdoors as things are starting to open up. Ad spend in health and household was actually flat year over year by March, largely due to things normalizing a bit after last year's spike that started in Feb. CPCs are also down roughly 12% year over year for this category. So I would expect to see this trend continue over the next 1 to 2 quarters as we continue to comp the spikes that we saw in these categories last year. And then while we saw a similar rebound quarter over quarter on both ad types, click-through rate is relatively low and declining year over year. This one can be a tough one to diagnose at a more aggregate level. However, with the increased ad inventory we've seen over the past year, I would expect that's probably a contributor to this. Typically when we see increase in ad placements, we see a dip in click-through rate. So looking at CPCs, I kind of went back and looked just to see what types of trends I could see. So I looked since the beginning of 2019, because we do tend to see a lot of volatility on a quarterly basis in CPCs, and there was really no clear patterns. So I then looked to see, well, what are the lowest CPCs that we've seen for both ad types since the beginning of 2019? I think that's about when we started our first CPC report, right, Melissa? Q1 2019? Yeah, so I looked back kind of since we've been reporting on this data, and what I actually found was that for sponsored product in Q1 of 2019, the lowest CPC that we've seen historically was 96 cents. So at $1.14 in Q1 of 2021, sponsored product CPCs have grown 19% from their lowest point. And then for sponsored brand, their lowest point was $1.30, and that was in Q4 of 2019. So at $1.42 in Q1 of 2021, sponsored brand CPCs have grown 9% from their lowest point. So while we tend to say that Amazon has become, so much more expensive and competitive, I really wanted to provide some context around CPCs and really how much more expensive they've become. They do tend to fluctuate quarter over quarter, as I mentioned, and they're impacted both positively and negatively by many factors such as ad inventory, changes in budgets, competition, as well as macro factors, as we've all learned in the last year with COVID. So I would expect to continue to see these quarterly fluctuations, but really just wanted to orient people in, how much CPCs have really grown over time. And then health and household is one of the few categories with a decrease in CPC year over year. So health and household CPCs are down about 12% year over year, primarily driven by the increased competition that we saw in Q1 of last year as Amazon began to prioritize essential goods. So given the increased demand, brands responded last year with increased budgets, driving up competition for ad placements. And then conversely to what we saw in health and household, home and kitchen CPCs are actually up significantly year over year. I think this is twofold. One, CPCs declined last year as brands pulled back on spend when non-essential categories were deprioritized and consumer demand was shifting toward those essential goods. And then two, home and kitchen are still seeing strong performance year over year because people are still being at home, or people are still at home, spending more time at home, working from home, et cetera. So competition is really heightened in that category. And then looking at conversion rates. So it's not surprising to see that conversion rates are at an all-time high across both ad types. Consumers' intent to purchase has really increased year over year if you think about it. Historically, consumers have really used Amazon for product research, often with the intent to purchase offline. However, with the pandemic, consumers are really researching online with a stronger intent to purchase online as well. So again, no surprise to see conversion rates are up. When you look at conversions for sports and outdoors, it was actually down year over year in January and Feb. And then it increased year over year for March. So this is just my hypothesis, but this could be partially driven by the fact that last year consumers were likely shopping for more specific items, not realizing that they were going to be homebound for so long. Whereas this year, they're probably browsing for more ideas on additional things that they can do to, stay in shape and get outside safely with their families. Also, this category has been heavily impacted by out of stocks. Nobody anticipated the demand that we were going to see with COVID. So over the last 9 to 12 months, consumers may have had a high intent to purchase, but it may have been taking them longer to find the item that they ultimately wanted to purchase just due to those out of stocks in the category. Cost per acquisition is down quarter over quarter and essentially flat year over year, indicating larger basket size quarter over quarter, which makes sense coming out of holiday as consumers are looking to complete their ordering of essentials at once online, as opposed to price shopping for deals and gifts online in Q4. ROAS for both ad types have hit historical lows. This really correlates with the CPC increases that we've seen over time, which I highlighted a little bit ago. Also, as brands become more sophisticated with their advertising strategies, we've really seen brands start to step away from using ROAS as a primary KPI for search, especially as they start to move more upper funnel and try to get more competitive. So as brands continue to focus on driving share and incrementality, they tend to shift focus and budget to category and competitor keywords and terms, which tend to be more expensive and drive lower ROAS than if they were bidding on their own branded terms. So we think that's contributing to the decline in ROAS. And then CPCs and ROAS are both down in beauty and personal care year over year, which is one of the more challenged categories that we've seen with people staying home during the pandemic. So I would expect to see this start to turn around over the next couple of quarters, especially as things start to open back up and people are eager to get out and be seen after being stuck at home. I do have to tell just like a quick little funny story. We had a outdoor socially distanced drive-through baby shower last weekend. And I mean, everybody was just showing up in these outfits that you could tell they'd just been trapped at home for way too long. So hopefully the beauty and personal care categories really start to see a rebound in the coming quarters as people get to be out and be seen again. Great. And then, this is really focused on search, but, really both search and display products can be leveraged across various parts of the shopping funnel at Amazon and online. And as CPCs do continue to become more expensive, search becomes more competitive, it is important to understand all the tools that you have available in your toolkit and start to look to move upper funnel so that you're continuing to drive, new to brand customers, especially with the, influx of new e-commerce shoppers year over year. It's a really good opportunity to start to move up the funnel and start to bring in, new customers into your pipeline. So arguably display is more upper funnel given some of its placements, functionality and audience-based nature. However, you can see from the diagram, both search and display products can be used for upper, mid, and lower funnel tactics. And really with DSP, you can just get more complex in terms of your strategy, your targeting, more specific, honed in, and your reach is broader, right? So when I say arguably, display is more upper funnel, you're seeing those placements more on the gateway, you're seeing them off Amazon, things like that, versus search, you have to be kind of already looking for that type of product. So what to look for in the months ahead. So Prime Day is moving up this year, as I'm sure most of you know. We are hearing that it may even be crossing quarters in terms of moving up. So historically, it's been in July, Q3. Sounds like it's going to be in Q2 of this year. We do continue to see supply chain issues, and we do expect that to be an ongoing issue for quite some time, given port congestion, et cetera, lots of things going on there. And then lastly, this is a very Amazon-focused webinar. However, we did want to note, Walmart did open up pickup and delivery placements in March, March of 2021. And we've just seen a huge increase in available impression volume through Walmart. So, if Walmart makes sense for your products and you're not already advertising there, that might be a good opportunity to consider. Great. And you can download our report at pacview.com/discover/reports. Next up, we have a Prime Day prep webinar that will be on Thursday, June 3rd at 11 a.m. That should say a.m., not p.m. Pacific time. I will not be there at 11 p.m. So great. Let's jump into some Q&A.
Yeah, there is one question about click-through rates. Are click-through rates so low due to significantly more impressions across all categories potentially, or is there any thought around the click-through rate decline?
Yeah, it's click-through rate. It's again hard to diagnose at the aggregate level, right? Because it really depends on the ads that you're serving and how engaging they are, things like that. However, yes, I mean, as more advertising inventory is out there, and as they increase those number of placements, you have to assume that at some point there is a relevancy issue that starts to come into play. And so you start to see lower click-through rates. So yes, I think there's multiple factors that likely contribute to that. And it's really hard to quantify, right? Because it's not like anyone tells us where those placements are being launched. But anecdotally, you know, that is what we do tend to see when we see increased placements.
So Video Creative Builder, is it only for DSP? I'm not sure. Do you know the answer to that, Mindy?
Yes, I believe it is only for DSP, I believe, but I'm not positive.
How will iOS 14.5 impact Google advertisers? I'm not sure. That I might have to get back to you on that answer.
Google.
If that's like all the privacy stuff.
It's basically asking about you know, not having that first party data.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that's open to opinion, right? You know, so I think we just kind of have to wait and see there. But yes, I mean, we do expect to see a drop in efficacy of targeting when it comes to the privacy.
Another question is, how does Walmart conversion compare to Amazon at this time? Any Walmart trends worth noting?
Absolutely. Lots of good Walmart trends to note. So Walmart does tend to be lower conversion than Amazon. I will say, and really what it starts with is click-through rate, right? So Walmart is a lot more focused on auto campaigns than manual campaigns. You have less like manual targeting functionality through Walmart than you do with Amazon. And so through those auto campaigns, you get served, you know, just a very large number of impressions, but they're not all, you know, necessarily quality impressions. And so we do tend to see lower click-through rate. You know, what we really see on Walmart is a much lower ASP. And that's, you know, not just versus Amazon, that's versus other platforms. It's not a surprise. I think it's what we expect. I will say, you know, before opening up that pickup and delivery inventory on March 1st, you know, we weren't really seeing great relative efficiencies with Walmart across our other platforms that we work with. That being said, that significantly changed with the opening of that additional ad inventory for pickup and delivery placements. And I mean, we saw like 25, 50% plus improvements in efficiencies. So while it does tend to be lower price point items, you do, from a KPI perspective, tend to see some pretty good efficiencies there right now.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, you know, part of our value prop is unifying all this data across all these retail media platforms. And so you're able to see performance across Amazon, Walmart, Instacart, all the, you know, platforms that you're advertising on, and pick out these trends specific to your category. The other thing about Walmart, it's a no-brainer that lower ASP items are converting better and perform better. And so the exciting thing that I think that, you know, we will get to is this ability to do portfolio advertising across retailers based on what responds better. So on Amazon might be higher ASP items, on Walmart lower ASP items that you want to advertise and get into slot one. So that's kind of the future exciting place that we're in. Another question is about the supply chain issue. Is that resulting in decreased POs? Is Amazon ordering less? And that's specifically more, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's just more like manufacturers are still having supply chain issues.
100%. Yeah. So this isn't really an Amazon issue. It's more of a supplier issue. And, you know, I mean, we're seeing price increases due to increase in, supply costs, things like that. And we have, you know, port issues. So backup getting inventory here. So things like that. So it's really more on the supply side and less on the Amazon purchasing side that we're seeing those constraints.
Yeah. And Andrew has a good question around Amazon attribution. So the question is, I've used Amazon attribution ever since it was first available in beta. I've always seen huge discrepancies from what Amazon attribution was reporting versus what the ad buying platforms show. Have you experienced large discrepancies on Amazon attribution as well? Honestly, this is still a very early product for us. It's a beta product, still is. I don't think there's not a huge amount of adoption across clients in general. And so I don't think I have I'd love to follow up on maybe the next CPC webinar that we do, after we get more. I think, it's kind of coming more into maturity. Amazon is promoting it more. We just don't have enough data points to be able to really draw a lot of conclusions and really just adoption.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's really important to tie in your social data, and some of your off Amazon clearly data to pair that up. So that's what we're working through right now with Amazon, is how do we really bring that data together in the PackView platform. And so it is early in the process. We may have some insights by the next webinar.
And Rick Jackson has some questions about DSP. So data on DSP performance in offline, is DSP driving traffic at other retailers / platforms? So maybe you can go into, Mindy's doing a DSP webinar specifically with buy box experts. So we'll make sure that that's on our list of, that when we send out our recap, that webinar's on there. But can you talk a little bit more about DSP? And
yeah, so we don't get data from other retailers to say what drove their traffic, right? But what we do know is that Amazon historically has said, for every $1 researched online, $6 are research online and purchase offline. That number has now gone to $7 for Amazon. It's also $10 for Walmart. So I would say, Amazon DSP has broad reach. It does influence consumer shopping behavior, whether that's on Amazon or off Amazon.
And then another question that I don't think we have enough data points to answer is just, have you seen success of Google social ads / social ads to Amazon listing pages? We don't really have a good kind of perspective on that, but I think that is all the questions. The last plug I'll put in is, if anybody's on Clubhouse, I'm doing a Clubhouse with Andrea Lay this afternoon at 4 Pacific with Sean Riley, who's the chief dude of Dude Wipes. If anybody knows what those are, they're butt wipes, and they actually have like a bidet product that I've seen on TikTok. And then Dave Crosby of Wise Cameras, and Dave is famous in his own right because he's a CMO, and then he also has a whole like YouTube and social following because he was on The Voice and has a daughter that is an amazing singer. And anyway, so we're doing Clubhouse today at 4. I would love to see anybody who wants to join and ask questions about how these brands have built such amazing brands. If anyone follows Sean Riley on LinkedIn, he's hilarious. So he has Mindy's favorite potty kind of humor. He's pretty funny. So
I did laugh when you said butt wipe. Sorry, I know I'm like a child.
He is. It will be entertaining if nothing else. So hope to see all of you there. And thanks for being part of our community. We'll be sure to send out the recording, and you can download the report. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.